Hello, everyone. So, this is going to be a video about Friday the 13th, and I know it's already after midnight and everything, but at least I'm still within the week of Friday the 13th, so, I call that an accomplishment with the way my schedule's been lately. But this is a little bit of a different take on how Friday the 13th came about, and the reality is it was all basically created to silence women. Now, go through a little bit of the history here. When it comes to bad luck, there are a few superstitions as pervasive in Western culture as that of Friday the 13th, like crossing paths with a black cat and breaking a mirror. The notion of a day that can bring misfortune is deeply embedded, even if believers can't explain why. There is even a name to describe the irrational dread of the date. And I'm not even going to try to say that. It is on my community page. And there's also a name for the phobia that is associated to the number of 13 that is included on my community page. While Friday the 13th may feel like a rare phenomenon, our Gregorian calendar means that the 13th of any month is slightly more likely to fall on a Friday than any other day of the week. Friday the 13th superstitions are not universal, though. In Greece and Spanish speaking countries, it is Tuesday the 13th that is considered a day of bad luck. In Italy, it is Friday the 17th that is met with fear. Like many superstitions that have evolved over time and across cultures, it is difficult to pinpoint the precise origins of Friday the 13th. What we do know is that both Friday and the number 13 have been regarded as unlucky in certain cultures throughout history. In Norse mythology, it is believed it started when Loki, the god of mischief, gate crashed a banquet in Valhalla, bringing the number of gods in attendance to 13. Deceived by Loki, the blind god was tricked into shooting his brother, the god of light, joy, and goodness, with a mistletoe tipped arrow, killing him instantly. The superstition is then thought to have spread south throughout Europe, becoming well established along the Mediterranean by the start of the Christian era. It was here that the unsettling power of the numerals was cemented through the story of the Last Supper, which was attended by Jesus and his disciples on Maundy Thursday. And Maundy Thursday is part of the Christian celebration of Easter, and it marks the Last Supper as told in the Bible. The 13th and most famous guest to arrive, Judas, was the disciple who betrayed Jesus, leading to his crucifixion, and that happened on Good Friday. In biblical tradition, the concept of Unlucky Friday stretches back even further than the crucifixion. Friday is said to be the day that Adam and Eve ate the fruit, the day Cain murdered Abel, and the day that the Temple of Solomon was toppled, and the day Noah's Ark set sail in the Great Flood. It wasn't until the 19th century that Friday the 13th became synonymous with misfortune. The combination of Friday and the number 13 is a Victorian invention. In 1907, the publication of Thomas W. Lawson's most popular novel, Friday the 13th, captured the imagination with its tale of an unscrupulous broker who took advantage of the superstitions around the date and deliberately crashed the stock market. In the 1980s, a hockey masked killer by the name of Jason in a slasher flick franchise, Friday the 13th, ensured notoriety. Then came Dan Brown's 2003 novel, The Da Vinci Code, that helped popularize the claim that the superstition originated with the arrests of hundreds of members of the Knights Templar on Friday, October 13th, 1307. Given the mass of doom-laden lore, you'd be forgiven for thinking that Friday the 13th is indeed ominous. If we dig deeper, we also find evidence that both Fridays and the number 13 have long been regarded as a harbinger of good fortune. In paganism, Friday is believed to have a unique association with the divine feminine. The first clue can actually be found in the weekday named Friday, which is Old English and means day of Frigg. Both Queen of Asgard and a powerful sky goddess in Norse mythology, Frigg was associated with love, marriage, and motherhood. Frigg gave protection to homes and families, maintained social order, and could weave fate as she did the clouds. She also possessed the art of prophecy and could bestow or remove fertility. On the other hand, Freya, the goddess of love, fertility, and war, with whom Frigg was often confused, was endowed with the power to perform magic, predict the future, and determine who would die in battles, and was said to ride a chariot pulled by two black cats. These goddesses were worshipped widely across Europe, and because of the association, Friday was considered a lucky day for marriage by Norse and Teutonic people. The number 13 has long been regarded as a portentous number by pre Christian and goddess worshipping cultures for its link to the number of lunar and menstrual cycles that occur in the calendar year. Fertility was prized, and still is, in paganism, and artwork would often draw connections to menstruation, fertility, and the phases of the moon. Take the Venus of Lascaux, an approximately 25,000-year-old limestone carving depicting a voluptuous female figure cradling her pregnant stomach with one hand and holding a crescent-shaped horn bearing 13 notches in the other. Many scholars believe that the figurine may have represented the goddess of fertility in ritual or ceremony, while the 13 lines are typically read as a reference to the lunar or menstrual cycle, both of which symbolize feminine power. As Christianity gained momentum in the Middle Ages, paganism stood at odds with the new patriarchal faith. Not only did its leaders take objection to the worship of multiple gods and goddesses, the celebration of Friday and the number 13 were deemed unholy. So revered were these deities that through making people relinquish them proved real challenging, like super challenging. Christian authorities persisted with their campaign, branding both the deities and women who worshipped them as witches. When Norse and Germanic tribes converted to Christianity, Frigga was banished in shame to a mountaintop and labeled as a witch. It was believed that every Friday, the spiteful goddess convened a meeting with 11 other witches, plus the devil, a gathering of 13, and plotted ill turns of fate for the coming week. But it is time to rewrite the narrative of this unlucky date. We need to have conversations and speak up about the role misogyny has played in silencing powerful women throughout history. They were desperate enough to silence women that the men of that time decided that Friday and the number 13 were going to be unholy and harmful in many ways. So when someone mentions how unlucky Friday the 13th is, just simply remind them that every woman has a voice. Have a good night, everybody.